but we get to know our staff, and that's a beautiful thing too, because God's brought us some wonderful people that have lit the path for us.
Your goal as workforce development has always been to give our staff members a stepping ladder, a way to get more education, to get more pay.
So I understand as a mother, the struggles that some of our young moms in our company face.
Just saying a simple thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen staff members, especially when they're new to the team, be like, oh, wow, just a simple thank you will light up their day, especially when you're noticing that they're going the extra mile.
And the residents actually thank them themselves for a thankless job, because I don't care what position you're in an assisted living home or a nursing home. I represent that industry on the Board of Health. It is a thankless job. And so we've found as administration, the best thing we can do is to let them know that they are appreciated.
Sure did. Exactly right. To go get some ice cream.
Yeah. And it's so exciting to be a part of.
It'll be amazing.
It really is. It's one of the biggest things I think we've learned.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks for swinging by. Thanks for tuning in. And we want to welcome you here to Around the Table with Vickie. I'm your co-host, Chris Runk, and across the table from me, as always, is my mother, your host, Vickie Runk.
Hello, everybody. Hello, friends. It's always great to be here and get another talk in for our viewers and our listeners. And what are we going to do today?
Well, Mom, we're going to continue on. We've lost my dad.
Mm-hmm.
He won't be joining us for part 3
right.
of this discussion on tough decisions and turning points that a leader, an entrepreneur faces throughout their business journey. So today it's just you and me.
Just you and me.
But that's all right.
I think we can do it.
I think we can handle it. Before we start, though, I do want to also give a shout out to our upcoming massive fireworks show that will be happening at Ivy Hill Golf Club on June 28th called Light Up the Lawn. It's a great time. It's one of our biggest events we do at the golf club. So if you have nothing to do and you love fireworks, you do not want to miss Light Up the Lawn, June 28th. The doors open at 5 p.m. Fireworks go off at 9:30 p.m. We have a great show planned for you. There will be food vendors, lots of large blow-up toys for kids to play on. So bring your kids, bring your whole family, bring your lawn chairs, your picnic blankets out. And we're going to have a great evening. We will have food vendors there as well. So make sure you come hungry. And I'm excited to have Radio Time Machine performing for us this year. They take the stage at 7:30, but we'll have music all day long. There'll be a DJ out there. But it should be a really great time.
And I know family fun. Yep. We really want to stress that heading back to years ago when, everybody would gather on their lawns and celebrate America on the 4th of July, we're sort of simulating that in a bigger way. Come gather on our lawn and let's celebrate the greatest nation in the world and do it in a way that's just so much fun. We talked last time about the show being bigger this year. So you want to make sure that you're ready for that. You don't want to miss it. It just went out on all of our social media yesterday. So you can go to the social media pages and find out more of the specifics about the show. If you can't remember everything, what I do is I take a screenshot, Christopher, and then I just keep it in front of me all the time, add it to my calendar. You guys that are a little older, you can do that too. It's a cheat sheet way of doing things. When we're not as tech savvy as you, we can get around it.
Who knows with you? You may take that screenshot and set it as your phone background.
I might.
That's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
You can't miss it. You have no excuse not to be there.
That's right.
But make sure you come early. We did have to shut down parking last year because we had so many people. So don't come just at 9:30 and expect to get in for the fireworks. You want to make sure you get there early.
Yeah, let's make that clear because I think a lot of people are starting to do that. Maybe some of the older people that don't want all the, crowds and everything. If you wait too late, you're not going to get in. So let's make sure we get you there sooner.
And Sheriff Miller with the Bedford County Police Sheriff's Office, he'll be out there and he'll make sure everybody's safe. And we got the traffic patterns worked out. So it's
fire department,
forest fire.
Big American flag going to hang again, and great photo ops for people. and just family fun.
That's right. Well, Mom, jumping back in on tough calls and turning points, I'm going to just shoot you a question here. Have you ever had to let a product idea or team member that you really believed in, did you have to let that go? And what led to that decision?
Well, I could answer that, 10 different ways, but what's coming to my mind right now is the healthcare side of things. So, we do several different businesses, but let's specifically talk about the healthcare side of things. When you're working with nurses and families and clients that are bedridden sometimes or just, disabled, you start to create this very deep bond of a team because you're calling at all hours of the night. And I mentioned the other day, sometimes our employees spend more time with us than they do their own families. And so that's true for us on this end too. We spend a lot of time with our employees as well. And so we get bonded with them and we get very close with them. And inevitably, on the healthcare side, I can have a team member that I just really pour so much mentorship into, my faith, my confidence, and I believe that employee is going to carry us through making some tough decisions, life and death decisions for residents and their families and making sure that everything's done right. So I tend to get very bonded with the healthcare management because I'm really relying on them to carry through our policies and procedures. And again, lots of time on the phone and lots of time, late nights, early mornings, interrupting vacations, all the stuff.
If she's on a phone call with a healthcare team member, I know I'm not going to get her attention no matter what. So I can attest to the phone calls.
Yeah.
You take a back seat at that moment.
That's right. So I think that there's been one or two times in the history of Runkin Pratt that I can think of that just along the way, you could tell that team member they were losing their drive to, continue on with us. And we talked about last episode, there are some team members that are meant to go with you all the way through. And then there are some that God just sends us for a season. They can't pick any higher on the tree because they're just not able to reach the fruit. And through the years, I've learned when we get to that point, there is just no reason to try to make that work any longer. And so through the years, there's been one or two employees that I can think of that really just, it hurt when they left. It wasn't just them leaving a position, which is very easy to fill. It wasn't about the position. It was the relationship and the connection to that person that was lost. And that leaves a really big hole that takes you quite a while to get over. And I'm sure I'm not saying anything that other companies, haven't felt along the way. They're key people. They're key man employment, key employees. And those are the things that take me a little bit of time to get over because, when I love big. And, and then you never see that employee again. You never see that person. But for 5-7 years, they've been completely ingrained in your life. And so those are hard moments that you have to, just learn that God's in control and it was just time for that employee to move on.
How do you handle moments when you're unsure of the right path forward?
Well, for me, again, grounded in faith, I do a lot of prayer. But inevitably, when you get really good at your profession and you understand trends, you understand people, just people. People burn out. People give up. People give up on themselves, their dreams, and you can't always fix that for them because that's an internal thing that they're battling. That's an internal battle with them. They just decide this isn't for them anymore, whether, no matter what kind of profession that it is, they can just decide this is not what I want to do anymore. And you have to be big enough as an employer to help them go on their way or to help them maneuver a change. Sometimes they don't leave. Sometimes we can just put them somewhere else in the company and they can spend a little bit of time and you can get a few more years out of them. But just knowing that it's the right decision for me is that I just have peace that I'm not questioning my decision, that I'm very, very determined that the decision that I made was right because I have nothing inside me turning saying, well, maybe I should have done this or maybe I should have done that. It's just a complete peace.
And you mentioned that you get to build that relationship with that staff member. And I've seen you and Dad do it throughout the years where you do spend so much time with your upper management work family that it's a really great thing that you know them so well, sometimes even more better than they know themselves in the work profession, that if they did have a burnout moment or they're just tired or they're looking for a new job and they're like, hey, I'm gonna leave. Which is kind of like a shock. I can't tell you how many times I've watched you be like, wait a second, you don't need to leave. Let me find you a new position that may reinvigorate your love for the job. And you take somebody and place them in a completely different peg that I know I would have never even thought of. I'm like, well, if they want to leave, they want to leave, you know? And you're like, wait a second, we can still fix this. And those are some really beautiful moments. And it's great for that staff member because they get reinvigorated. It's like they have a whole new job and you just thought out of the box a little bit for that person.
Yeah. Well, when you know your team members, it's easy to do that. And there's a lot of leaders that really don't know their team members. And that's unfortunate because, part of the love and the joy that's, given to us for the honor and the privilege of not only taking care of clients and residents, but we get to know our staff. And that's a beautiful thing too, because God's brought us some wonderful people that have lit the path for us, that have done the grunt work, that have been out there on the front lines, whenever we could not. And there's no, better way for us to show appreciation to them than to go the extra mile when they need us.
And I think that's a great point because, we know our staff. We tried to know our staff on a level. And I know I do even with the people that I manage. You mentioned it on the show several times that, especially Dad, that staff members aren't robots.
Yeah.
They do have their own family issues, their own successes and struggles outside of work. And to be able to celebrate those with their staff members. And, if a new child is born, being there for those big moments. We got several in the company that's getting ready to happen right now. That's and we're a part of that with them. It
certainly is not me.
No, it's not.
I got to celebrate those babies somehow. Because we're not getting any in our family. That's right.
But those are some special moments, to come back from.
Well, and to watch them grow up too, because again, you're taking their mom or their dad and spending a good 8 hours a day, and that child continues to grow up. And I remember that's what got us into our business was the fact that I wanted to spend more time and be a more active mom than just, punching a clock 8 hours a day. And thank God I listened to those little whispers that God was putting in my ear. But so I understand as a mother, the struggles that some of our young moms in our company face. And so there are several times I will bend a rule or I'll just say I didn't see that, and there's a baby sitting in their office or whatever, because it's real important. And if you don't have anybody to keep your children, that you're not going to be able to be a good employee at work. And so there's been lots of times that there's been even puppies in the building. How many times has one of our employees gotten a new puppy and they needed a good 4 weeks to get them over those little puppy stages to where they learn to stay in a crate by themselves? There's been plenty of times I would walk in these hallways and I'd say, did I just hear a dog?
Yeah.
And you'll be like, yeah, Mom, they're going to be here for a little while, and then they'll end up staying at home when they can. But again, those are things that we've done in our own family, and I think that's what creates longevity with employees. It makes them understand that you just simply care about their struggles that they're having on day to day, and that makes them want to stay with you and work harder and longer. And we've just found that being personal with our employees really work.
I mean, I can think of a staff member that's been here 12, 13 years, and he's kind of he started when I did.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back now, I mean, that same staff member, their family, they feel like I'm part of their family because, they got different birthday parties, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, can we have a few items from save this or save that? And we love to do those kind of things where we can enrich others' lives with some of the things that we've been blessed with as a company. And to be there for those kind of moments, I think speaks very highly of how we're able to retain those staff members, because that's just crucial things.
Today especially.
Yeah.
Before we ask any more questions, I want to say a quick shout out to Miss Sue Nell DeHart from Texas, Christopher.
Oh, wow.
I've been told that she has not missed an episode of Around the Table here lately, and she's really enjoying getting to know us here in Virginia. She's part of a group called the Savvy Seniors, and there's a group of women that travel.
Is it the Savvy Seniors or the Sassy Seniors?
Maybe it's the Sassy Seniors.
I think it's the Sassy Seniors,
Sassy
which I
Seniors.
like even better.
Yeah, I do too.
Because I want to go join the Sassy Seniors.
And they travel together. They were educators in the school system where they were employed, and now they're retired and they're doing all kinds of great things. And so Sue Nell goes by the nickname Sweetie. So, Sweetie, I want to look right in that camera and tell you I appreciate you listening, and I cannot wait to meet you in another week or two. And so keep listening, and I love the Sassy Seniors, and I hope, never know, I might go on a trip with you girls one day. You never know. Let's go somewhere good.
Can I come take pictures? I'll just photograph the event. I mean, I just want to hang out with y'all.
There's nothing better than.
But how cool is that too? To think you started the show.
Yeah.
And you got some sassy seniors in Texas.
We're attracting the right kind.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you.
You sassy seniors. Mom, how do you maintain your staff's morale during high pressure situations?
Well, I just answered an email about that today, so it's good that we're talking about it. We give out a lot of gift cards to staff that are going above and beyond. So if there's a staff member that's working over, or she's worked a lot of overtime, or she's taken on extra shifts, now this is healthcare, then we're going to give out some gift cards. We acknowledge a lot of the different facilities will have Employee of the Month. And I'm always on there and watching the people that they're nominating. Liberty Ridge especially has something really cool that we almost sent into ABC News. It's a long walkway from one door that separates assisted living to the other door that goes into independent living, and it's the independent living dining room. And we call it the Walk of Fame, because those residents will gather down that walk and they'll have balloons, and it's almost like you're getting ready to go on to a Broadway show or something, and they're clapping for that particular employee that we're celebrating, and the administrator brings the employee to that door. They make them walk down that Walk of Fame there, and we're praising them and we're giving them accolades, and the residents actually thank them themselves for a thankless job. Because I don't care what position you're in an assisted living home or a nursing home. I represent that industry on the Board of Health. It is a thankless job. And so we've found, as administration, the best thing we can do is to let them know that they are appreciated and that they're cared. We care that you're going the extra mile. And when you bring the residents in and they're able to thank them personally, and the balloons and all the fanfare, there's always food. By the time they get down their Walk of Fame there's food at the end. And during COVID, those were just some really cool things that some of our administrators came up with. Each building celebrates employees differently. And they all have their own style and personality, and it really depends on who the administrator is. And with Patrick, he's big and bold. Mm-hmm. So that Walk of Fame has been something.
It's our own parade.
It's our own parade. And I love to watch each and every one of them, have a hand in how they celebrate their employees. But I think, at the end of the day, we're still talking about making an employee feel valued, loved, and secure in their job.
Yeah. I also just think just saying a simple thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen staff members, especially when they're new to the team, be like, oh, wow, just a simple thank you will light up their day, especially when you're noticing that they're going the extra mile.
Mm-hmm.
They're caring a little bit more than maybe that previous employee. And you're like, hey, they get it.
Years ago, it wasn't unusual that every employee had that kind of attitude.
Mm-hmm.
But today,
Yep.
after COVID,
it's special when you...
It is very unusual that you find those that really want to go the extra mile. Mm-hmm.
I want to jump back on the idea of the question I asked you at the beginning of the show about a product or an idea that maybe wasn't the right timing, because I know a lot of you help mentor other businesses
Mm-hmm.
and other leaders,
Mm-hmm.
and they've come to you and they have so many great ideas. And when you own a building and you've got a vision, you just gung-ho and we're going to get it all done. But sometimes some of those those bright ideas aren't the right ideas.
That's right.
Maybe see what I did there?
Yeah,
That's good.
it's good.
Maybe specifically at that specific time. Maybe the idea that you have isn't till I need to get established, make sure I'm getting constant cash flow. And that idea that I want to do now is maybe a 3-year project.
Yeah. Yeah, we've definitely seen that in a lot
And
of
I
things
know
that
we've done that a
Yeah,
lot.
Yeah.
So touch on a little bit about how do you navigate those waters of, I have an idea, I want to do it, but maybe right now is not the perfect time for that. And I should be focusing on what is working and really putting my energy into that.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest mistake that a new business makes, is when they try to take an idea or a vision that they have for their business and really make it work when it is just not going to work. And what you have to do as a business leader is to really look at the finances and focus on what is giving you the foundation to have your business, and then what makes you the extra money to be able to grow your business. So in business world, you have your foundation, which means you can go in every day and open the door and turn the lights on, and you got all that covered. You don't have to worry about where the money's coming from. But then you have that vision that's going to help you grow. And you got to be able to have enough money to be able to do that. And whatever is working in your business to give you that extra cash flow to grow that vision is what you need to focus on. And then all of the pretties that you've got in your head that's going to bring those pretty things into your business, those wild visions or those accolades for yourself as a business owner, just might need to wait a little bit longer. And I can't think of I can think of countless things that we had in the very beginning, but you have to walk before you crawl, and then you have to crawl before you run. And so that's very true in the business world as well. And you have to be a big enough leader to admit we've got to wait on that. And that's not always easy.
Sure. And I think it's also important that if you are going to jump to that growth phase, to have about a year's worth of cash in reserve.
Yes.
To any idea, I think you have to give a full solid year or two, because you're going to go through the seasonality of the business.
Well, and the market these days, you just never know what, is going on in politics that's going to affect your business. Because if something happens and they raise a tax, or they instill a tax locally, city council will do something different in their budget, and then all of a sudden you've got an extra amount of cash that you've got to have that you were not planning for, that was totally out of your control. It was either done on a federal level or a state level or a local level, and it's going to affect your business. And so many times new business leaders don't think about that. You really do have to have something for a rainy day.
Talking about turning points in the history of the nation, but especially our industry, I can't think of a bigger turning point than COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how involved you were during that time, as many business owners were, about the uncertainty of what that looked like. Can you speak a little bit about the turning point of COVID for our industry, what it was like on you emotionally, physically? I remember us developing plans off of guidelines that would change daily.
Mm-hmm.
So the target was always moving. Speak a little bit about COVID and kind of how that changed our industry as a turning point.
Well, it certainly changed our industry forever. I'm not even sure when we will recover from all the ramifications that COVID changed. There's some positive things about COVID that happened with our industry and happened inside me. I quickly became very immersed in understanding how diseases spread, how viruses spread. We started to look for new techniques. We remember when we went to Carilion Hospital, when we got our new system called Viking Pure, which is a salt-based cleaner that just came out about the same time COVID was coming onto the scene. And we use a spray gun, and we have a machine that's inside every facility, and that's how we clean our carpets. That's how we clean our surfaces. And to this day, that particular crisis in 2020 has helped us with a new disinfectant that keeps the regular flus from spreading as fast, the rotaviruses, all of the seasonality of viruses and germs that come through our facilities. I learned how important infection control truly, truly was. And we prepared on a magnificent level for 2020 to where 5 years later, we would never be at the level that we are now for infection control had we not lived through one of the nation's worst epidemics. And so I think in that regard, we all learned so much in the industry. We understood how important it is. And now when we go through a flu season, it's not near as bad as it was before 2020 because we're paying attention to all the things that COVID brought to our attention. What that did to me, personally, I will never be the same leader as I once was. It really developed a sense of urgency in me, and I probably still keep that to this day, whereas in the past I may have waited a little bit longer to make a decision, and now I'm right on it. If it's something in our industry that we need to look at, I've made changes in the healthcare team and the level of professional nurses that are coming on to our company. That's not even a requirement. We're not required to have an RN or an LPN. And over the last 6 months, we have included now several at each building. We've gone from a team of like 2 to 3 for our entire company. We celebrated Nurses Week a couple weeks ago, and there was almost 10 in the company now. And so that gives me even though it's not a regulation, it gives me a comfort as a business owner and leader that I am developing a team of healthcare professionals, always I have to say, that are not perfect, but they're more qualified, and they're going to take our program in a direction in which I see some of our industry changing. It's kind of like a freight train coming at me. You see the lights, and they're all from the distance, but I see it coming. And so I want to be prepared for those moments well before the train pulls into the station. So my mentality has kind of changed. If I'm going to be looking ahead and planning before it becomes a regulation, planning before the problems hit. And that way, when things go wrong, you're just so much better prepared. But I see, the workforce coming back slowly. The quality of caregivers that's still out for a verdict. But we try really hard, and that's where a lot of my focus is every day, is making sure that we get good quality people that are going to be in there taking care of our seniors. They are not perfect. They all have lives, and we have to make sure that we are stimulating an environment in which they want to stay. And that's what we're doing on a leadership level.
Talking about the training of staff, you said the quality. Speak a little bit about, because that also introduced us starting our own nursing school and training those staff members at an entry level in the correct way, the Runk and Pratt way that you would want to see seniors cared for. Not only that would go into then our buildings, but also our local community as well. That was a key training point during that time.
Yeah, and we did that, and we started in 2017 with the idea that we wanted to have our own CNA program because it was getting harder and harder to find qualified staff. And you actually kicked off the academic part of that program. You got all the books. You made sure that we were in compliance for the state regulations that we would be under in order to have a school. We hired, and then I think over today we have graduated almost 200 girls or gentlemen through that program since 2018 which is when we started 2018 in the fall. And that program has grown. We now have several nurses on staff. We now are teaching night classes. We're doing some Zoom classes. We're doing online classes, and we're just growing so much. And it's given us an opportunity to tell these young ladies, if you don't have a career, come try this with us. It's an 8.5-week course. We also have a PCA level, personal care aide, to where it's a 40-hour course, but you're in the classroom right here on 1208 Perryville Road. It's inside our office complex right next door to Daytime, which is in this building as well. And these girls are training. There's a scholarship available at the state level called the Mary Marshall Scholarship, to where the state will reimburse you back for every penny that you've used here for the curriculum. And thanks to our great governor for making that year round. It was before him, it was only good for 2 months out of the year. So now it's 12 months out of the year. He saw a need for, CNAs to be educated. And so that's been made available. I know that over $350,000 on a state level was poured back into that for extra funding this year. I saw it come across the board. So I'm super excited about that. If it's the same thing if you're in an industry and you see a problem, we'll just develop something to fix it,
Sure.
which is what we did.
And that school offers an NA program, nursing assistant program. You said a PCA, a CNA, certified nursing assistant,
Registered
and
med aid.
a registered RMA. And we hope to get to one day an LPN program, which is also great because your goal as workforce development has always been to give our staff members a stepping ladder, a way to get more education, to get more pay. And that's exactly what that school does.
Yeah.
So, Mom, we are out of time, but thank you so much.
Fun today. You had some hard questions, but I think I passed.
I think you did, but I've had a wonderful time talking about some tough calls and turning points over the last 3 episodes. And thank you for sharing, you and Dad, sharing your insight on it. So, been a great discussion, and we look forward to more in the future. But it is that time of the show, and I know you like to end every show with a quote, and you got a special one for us today.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sitting with us today. I hope something that's been said here will resonate and help you on your journey, because everybody has their own journey. Today's quote comes from Winston Churchill. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. And that's so true with everything we've talked about over the last 3 episodes. Have the courage to continue on. Until next time, I'm Vickie, and we are right here around the table.